Swear.
You aren't absolutely. That's why you're on the naughty list.
I will swear. Trust me.
Well, that's why you're on the naughty list because you're being naughty right now. So you're gonna be on the naughty list if you keep talking like that.
No, because Father Christmas has not been very nice to me.
Because you're being naughty, so you're on the naughty list.
No, I'm not. I'm on the good list, actually.
You're not because you ain't being good.
I am on the good list. If you keep saying that word again and again and again, I'm not on naughty list.
Father Christmas rang me last night when I was at work and said, "You better tell Jackson to start being a good boy, or he's going to stay on the naughty list and he won't get no presents for Christmas." That's what he said to me. So you got to start being a good boy.
And I'll do an uppercut to him.
No, you won't do. No, what?
I'll go like this. Punch him. Punch his beard off.
You're just silly, man.
Hey, trust me, I'm not on bad list.
You're on the naughty list, mate.
No, I'm not.
I don't think so. I don't think so.
I don't think that's a relevant question.
Perfect. I don't think so. This is about our lives. This is about American lives. And it should not be partisan. Science should not be partisan.
At some point, the daily drumbeat of depression and terror veers into panic porn. FDR said the only thing we have to fear is fear itself.
I think the question is,
News sources have to rein it in.
I'll be honest with you. I'm kind of retarded.
We need the news to calm down and treat us like adults.
Yugoslavia. And then they kind of all separated through wars and like religious conflicts. And my dad was from Croatia. My mom was actually born in the U.S., but her parents, my grandma and my grandma was from Belgrade, Serbia, which is the capital of Serbia now. And my grandpa was from Montenegro, from this, like in this village. He was born in this village, kind of like in the mountains, like really high up in the mountains. But the nearest city is called Kolashi. And I don't know, man. I love it here. It's I feel like it's in my blood. Obviously, my perception of living in Serbia is a little different because I'm 26 years old. I'm by myself. I play soccer for a living. I have good pay for a Serbian person. So for me, my experience is awesome. If you ask me 3-4 years down the line, let's say I got a family, I got kids, because I know it can be tough here because the average pay I think is like maybe 400 euros, 500 euros. If 500 euros in like maybe Belgrade, but where I'm living right now, the pay isn't that high. So for me, it's okay. But I don't know. I love it. It's a good experience. I'm really happy I came here. And yeah, that's I would say. Overall, I'm very happy here. I'm very happy.
I love to hear that. So we might as well just pick up right here. So guys, thanks for joining us. I have a very special guest, a professional soccer player, a friend from high school, and somebody who's got a lot to teach us and a lot of perspective to offer. A friend of mine, Danilo Radjen. Thanks for joining us, brother. How you doing, man?
Doing well, man. Doing well. I'm glad to be here.
So one question I really want to ask you, as you kind of alluded to, what is it like did you have family take the trek with you, at least the trip over to kind of get you situated? What's it like showing up to a whole new country on the other side of the world and living by yourself, starting a whole new roots and a whole new network by yourself? What's that like?
Yeah, so I mean, the story started about 2 summers ago. I got done. I was playing. So I finished basically the reason why I came to Europe was to pursue a soccer career. Okay. I didn't come for any other reason. And I had experience in the U.S. So I graduated from the University of Akron, and Akron is well known. I think it's one of the best soccer schools in the entire country, and it prepares you to get to the professional level. And I was fortunate enough to get drafted by the Houston Dynamo. And after I got to the Houston Dynamo, I wouldn't say I had the best experience. I would say I played out of position. But at the same time, I can't fault anyone there because I don't think I played to the best of my ability. And then after I went to the New York Cosmos, and I kind of saw how the system was in the U.S. soccer system. And I really felt that you really needed to go to Europe and get that experience in Europe. And if you came back to the US, then you would kind of have, people would respect you more, I would say, and you would get like a better salary and like, and obviously that's the goal as a player, to get the most. I mean, that's kind of the goal for an individual who's in the working class. You just want to have a good salary that you can support yourself and your family. So I felt for me, the best option was actually just to go to Europe. And I had a good friend that was playing in Germany. And this is like, I'm telling you, man, this is like, it's like the story for a film. It's like a story for, I've told it like 100 times in Serbian. And for me right now, like it's weird for me, honestly, to speak English a little bit, because I've gotten so used to speaking Serbian over the past like year and a half, 2 years, that even like sometimes when I'm speaking, like I might even have like an accent right now. Like I remember I told one of my, like I did like an audio message. My friend's like, bro, you got like a thick accent now. And I don't know, maybe I sound normal.
But Danilo, you messaged me before we did this and you're like, hey man, I don't know how my English is going to be. I've been just speaking and thinking in Serbian. And what's funny is that was the first note I was going to make. I am incredibly impressed for somebody that's been entrenched in a whole nother country. And like you were saying, you haven't really spoken English at all. Like,
right.
I would have thought there's no difference. Listen, our friend Ninad's got just as much an accent as you do, and it's because he's speaking it here. So it's like there's no accent. Right. You should be proud of yourself.
Thanks, man. I appreciate it. But no, I mean, like, the thing is Serbian people we're like a very well-educated like nation. So a lot of people actually do know English here. Okay. And you got the movies, you got the TV series. It's all on TV. So I'm still hearing it, but me speaking it to like to a person that has it like as their first language, because I have to slow down some of the things that I say, and I can't use big words. So it depends on the individual, you know what I mean? But like right. If I start speaking with you and we're flowing, like, and I remember like I was talking to my mom, and I would talk, and one of my teammates like, bro, like I have no idea what you were saying like for 15 minutes. And I would talk to him, but I would talk to him like normally, like, slow it down, and he understands what I'm saying. But if I'm speaking it to like a native speaker, it's a different type of thing. But we're like, no. So I left off the story. I'm sorry.
Yes.
I kind of got taken away. But yeah. So I had a friend in Germany. He actually went to Brexel Heights. Okay. And he gave me a call, and I actually called him, and he said, I might be able to help you out in Germany, because he was playing in the 3rd or 4th division at that time.
Okay.
And I was like, listen, if you could just, open a door for me, and, I'll see if I can work my way up. And I went there, and unfortunately, I think, the experience that I had there was great. I was like living in a hostel. I was waiting for my chance, and that right chance never came. And, but I'm really thankful for him, because he showed a lot of courage in his journey. And he was like, he kind of just went overseas by himself, and he's made a life for himself in Leipzig, Germany. So I was in Leipzig, Germany. And I think without him, I wouldn't even be like at this position, just kind of being like a mentor or role model. So I'm really thankful that, we got linked up, even though the situation in Germany never really came to fruition like the way I wanted it to. And so I was in Germany for a month, and eventually nothing was happening. And I called one of my friends that I played with in Cleveland, and he was playing in Slovenia, and he was playing in the 1st division there in Slovenia. And I called him up, and I was like, hey man, like, who's your contact? Because, I want to go play in Europe. I still got like 1 month left, because there's like transfer windows when you can sign with clubs. So this was the summer transfer window, and you had to sign with the club by the end of August. And that's how it was in most of the European countries. If you don't sign with that club by the end of August, then you would have to wait till January or February to sign with that with a club in that country, if you're not like a free agent.
Okay. So
I called the guy up, and he connected me with a guy in Serbia. No, a guy from Cleveland who was Serbian. and I called the guy, and he said, go to Serbia. He said, go to Serbia. And I have a good friend that is connected with the biggest club in Serbia. He said, go to their second team, go train with their second team, and maybe he can open a door for you. And I said, okay. So I bought a ticket from Germany, and I went to Serbia. And unfortunately, the guy that he was trying to connect me with, nothing came to fruition through that. So basically, I went to Germany. Nothing really happened. I came to Serbia, and nothing really happened. And thankfully, I had aunts and cousins and everyone like in that Belgrade area. My grandma, my grandpa's family. There's a lot of family members that live in that area in Belgrade. So finding a place to sleep or like something just kind of to hold me over until I kind of found a situation for myself. It wasn't too difficult. So I was sleeping at my aunt's place. I was sleeping at my cousin's place. And here's basically where like all the synchronicities or coincidences start. So on the first day I'm trying to see my cousin. My cousin calls me up, and he was like, hey man, come over to my apartment and then we can go get lunch. And on the first day, I didn't know any Serbian. Like I couldn't speak it.
Really?
I knew.
So that's where I'm real quick, not to cut you off, but one question I do have for you is, what was your at-home life growing up like? Did you speak Serbian at all? Was there any other foreign languages, or was it all predominantly English?
Yeah, so when I was like growing up, when I was really, really young, from when I was like a baby to maybe when I was like 4 years old, 5 years old, I spoke Serbian, and I spoke Serbian pretty well.
Okay.
The reason why is because I was spending a lot of time with my grandma and my grandpa, and they spoke Serbian at home a lot. And my mom and my dad were working, and because of that, I was spending a lot of time at my grandma and my grandpa's. And eventually, when you get into that system, that American system, you got school, you're speaking English, then you go play basketball, baseball, soccer, you're speaking English. And then at home, because my mom was born in the U.S., in America, in Cleveland, my dad needed to learn English. So we would speak English at home. And I just kind of got stuck with just speaking English. And although I was stuck speaking English, like even when I would go to my grandma's and grandpa's place, like they'd speak Serbian to me. So I still understood a good amount of it. Okay. But I would always answer back in English. And I would go to our Serbian church. I'd have Serbian classes every Sunday. And I still couldn't get the hang of it. I think I was scared. I was scared to speak it, because you're always scared to speak a language because you don't want to look foolish. But I'm telling you, like I spoke from where I was in what I knew the first day to where I am now. I'm like, so it's crazy. Like, it's crazy how, like, if I go back to US and like people knew how I spoke Serbian, like when I was there, and they like heard me speaking now, they'd be like, holy crap. You know what I mean? I don't know if you could swear in the podcast, but
yeah, you can say whatever you want, man.
Yeah. So it's, so yeah, man, it was like, and I kind of learned it just through trial and error. You know, like the first month I was here, I was just listening, because you got to listen. But then eventually, because you got to listen to how they're making senses, because you can't like think in English and speak in Serbian. You have to hear how these people are speaking. And Serbian's a very tough language. And if I didn't have that background when I was a kid, I wouldn't be able to speak it as well as I'm speaking it now. I wouldn't say I'm perfect, but I would say like I'm an 8 out of 10. Like I remember I asked some girl like 2 weeks ago, I'm like, how well do I speak Serbian? She said like an 8. And I was like, man, I'll take it. You know what I mean?
That's pretty good. You know, It's funny when I bring you on the podcast and I'm going to introduce you, you know, I don't know if you've seen Gurgat, but it's missing a couple vowels as well. And people struggle to say the name. And so I'm like, I don't want to say his name wrong. But then I just doubled down on, I knew this kid for 10 years growing up, and I'm just going to go with what the ignorant Northeast Ohio teachers went with. And so what's funny is I imagine there's a lot like that where we just butcher it. And I'm like, I'm just going to go in blind confidence, go with Radjen. And so I know it's wrong. What's the proper way?
I mean, like when people say Radjen in the US, I'm fine with it. Like the worst was when we had like teachers, like I go in the first day of like class and I'd hear like Danilo or like, or like they'd go with Dan. Like sometimes I heard like Danielle, and and I remember it's like if you want to say like the Serbian, it's Danilo, Radjen, And or sometimes people can say Danilo Radjen. It doesn't matter. Like either one, it's okay with me. So no, I mean, I remember one time, I think it was Nate Kaminsky, man. Like it was a substitute teacher, and like this substitute, like one day, we never did this. And I was like, yo, Nate, like, I'm going to be you for a day and you're going to be Danilo for a day.
Oh, that's great.
And Nate's like, all right. So, like, you know, when they do, like, the roll call, they're like, Nate, I put my hand up. And she said Danilo. And she said it perfectly. And she said it with, like, a little bit of, like, an accent. And Nate raised his hand. And I'm like, bro, we're in trouble. Like, I'm like, and she was like, where are you from? And he goes, like, Serbia. And then she said something in Serbian. And Nate was like, listen. He goes, we were messing with you. That's Danilo. I'm Nate. Like, we just try to pull a prank. And, like, I was like, literally, like, that one day we tried to do something. Like, the substitute teacher, like, said my name perfectly. And I knew from then we were done. But, no, I mean, I got used to people butchering it. But, no, you said it well. So you're good, man. Don't worry about it.
As long as I didn't mess it up. But kind of like as you were alluding to, you've seen your speech get better as you're there. But what's weird, we'll get into the weeds of it. I want to pick your brain on kind of the social community of another country on the other side of the world as the world's shaking and social norms are breaking. But even before we get into that, I want to pick your brain on, I feel as if with this hypersensitive kind of PC world we live in, if I would have even attempted to say Danilo, I know I just effed it up there, but like if it's it's the O, and again, it's not in my diction, so I'm fighting an Akron A, but
right,
Danilo Radjen, and even if I attempted it out of respect, I feel like in the States people would just get their panties in a bunch and get all tight because I'm racist. And it's like, I can't win. If I say Kamala wrong, I lose. Yeah. But I'd love for her to say Gurgat. I'd love to throw those 5 letters her way and see her. But she's not racist. I'm the racist one. But that's just
right. No, I mean, listen, man. I'm not like that soft. You know what I mean? Like, if someone butchers my name, I appreciate the attempt. You know what I mean? So, yeah, you're good, man. Don't worry about it. But I know what you're saying, like, with how everyone's kind of like this PC culture, people are saying everything's getting filtered. You know what I mean? And you don't really have that freedom of speech anymore. You know, I just want people to be cool with one another. I think, you know, that's the end game, you know, for what we should kind of strive for on this planet. Unity, love, you know what I mean? Within cultures, within countries, we don't need war. You know, I feel like that's maybe some sort of, you know, propaganda, marketing. I'm not trying to get into that. That can be like for a later topic if you want to delve into like some different types of topics, which I love speaking about, to be honest with you. But
so Danilo, we need to get down that path. I want to bring us back to, you were talking about the synchronicities. I want to talk about your story and how everything comes together, because that's going to bring us to another point I kind of want to pick your brain on. So synchronicities, how does this all come together for you? It fell short in Germany. It fell you had a connection from Cleveland and Serbia. That seemed to be another dead end. How did it all come together for us?
Yeah, so I think I left off with my cousin. He called me up. And he was like, let's go get lunch. And I was at my aunt's place, and I called a cab because I wasn't familiar with how to, you know, get around in Belgrade. And I called a cab, and the cab driver, I told him the street. Actually, I didn't really tell him the street. I kind of just showed him because I couldn't pronounce the street name. And I showed him on my text message, and he drove me there. But he dropped me off on the street next to where my cousin was living. So I'm going up and down this street for like 15 minutes, and I can't find my cousin's number for his apartment. And I'm like, and this guy at this cafe sees me, and he asked me, he's like, do you need any help? And I told him, I was like, yeah, you know, if you can just send me like to this street name, that would be great. And he told me, yeah, it's like the street over, like 200 meters away. Meters, that's the metric system in Europe. I'm sorry if I've gotten used to it. He goes, yeah, and you're there. And then he asked me, because he heard I had an accent, and he was like, what are you doing here in Serbia? And I told him, you know, I'm here for family and for football. soccer. And he goes, football. And he says, come here. And I'm like, all right. So this cafe is like the size of like, it's like maybe the size of like it's like the size of a bathroom. Like it's a small cafe that like it has like an Italian type style. And to this day, I still go to that cafe. And I'm good friends with all these people. But that cafe changed my life for my football life. So this guy goes, do you have any videos or anything? Where'd you play? And he spoke English, like he was butchered English, but that's how we were communicating. And I told him where I was at, and he looked at the videos, like, this is good. So eventually the guy that I, coincidentally ran into, or he, asked me, he was the vice president, I think, of the top league in Serbia 10 years ago. And he was the owner of one of the clubs in Serbia 10 years ago. So wow. That's the start of like the snowball effect where it starts going. So at that time I didn't have Serbian citizenship. So me and this guy start chasing. He's like, listen, we're going to go find you a team. And I couldn't play in the third division because only people who had Serbian citizenship could play in the third division. So I had to go find a professional team. It was either the first division or the second division. And the first division, second division, they already had preseason. So I was basically coming when their season started. And they had like a lot of full rosters and all that stuff. So we start jumping from team to team, and eventually at the end of that transfer window, like the first 2 weeks, I'm basically training on the side with because they already had full teams, but I was just doing that to stay in shape.
Right.
And eventually I played in one friendly game, and I played really well for our team. I created a penalty, offensively. I did very well for 45 minutes. And eventually we saw that they were going to bring in this other player who had a contact. Like a lot of this stuff in Serbia is agents. Who's your agent can push you to be like to have a good team or whatever. They can push you to go out of Serbia. It's all connections.
Right.
And so then eventually at the end of the month, this is around August, I go to this city it's called Užice. And I play one day in front of the president, and he goes, we want to sign you for our team.
Oh, and there we go, baby.
Yeah. So I'm sitting, I'm like in the middle of the city, and I'm like, I can't fucking believe this, that I found some guy in a cafe, and after a month, I'm going to sign a professional contract. It was second division club, a professional contract with a team because the guy who I found at the cafe took me here. So it was like a crazy, I can't believe I pulled this off type of experience with a limited amount of time. So I go in the next day with my American papers and all that stuff, and these guys try to push the paperwork, but because I didn't have Serbian citizenship, that process takes a while to finish. And because I only had American papers, they couldn't finish the contract. So that's that transfer window that I'm talking about, August transfer.
Right.
So I knew I had to wait till January, February to find a new team. So I go back to Belgrade. I'm not gonna lie, I was pretty depressed. So I was like, you know what? I said, it's very tough for someone to make it in Serbia if they don't have papers, Serbian citizenship. I was like, I don't want to come back to Serbia. I'll live it up here another 2 or 3 weeks. And then after that, I'll go back to US and I'll figure something out. So my aunt heard that I was having trouble because of papers, and she had a connection with immigration there in Serbia. So she's like, listen, she's like, you can get Serbian citizenship because your grandma was born in Belgrade, Serbia. Your dad's from Croatia. So it wasn't a problem getting the papers. I just needed to get the paperwork done. So she told me it was going to take 2 or 3 months. The process. So I finished all the paperwork around October, November. Okay. I came back to the US because I wanted to work to make some money so I can come back to Serbia.
How long?
So
just curious.
So I was using Skyscanner. I don't know if you know what Skyscanner is.
No,
you know what
what's
Skyscanner is? So Skyscanner is this it's like this website that it kind of has it puts filters in. So you basically say where you're flying from to your destination, and it finds you the cheapest, it finds you the fastest, and it finds you basically the most efficient or something.
Oh, heck yeah.
So I was so basically I was using Skyscanner to find me flights. I would have to stop 2 or 3 times, but I was finding flights from Serbia to US and back for 600 euros, or so for $700. Yeah.
Right.
So
it seems like a lot.
Yeah, I mean, like $600 for there and back. I mean, I don't think it's
and
too
back. That's
Yeah.
great.
Yeah. So there and back, I was finding like stuff for like 600 or 700. So I go back to the U.S. I'm working my job because no one would hire me because I was only going to be there for 2 months. I find a UPS driver helper job. So I'm running boxes from a truck to the front door every day for like 4 to 8 hours a day. And it's snowing, it's raining. I'm making $15 an hour, but a little money in Serbia, American cash, goes a long way.
Okay.
Right? Like I'm telling you, like the average salary is 300, 400, 500 euros. You get an apartment, you can pay it for like 200 euros a month. And then your expense is maybe 200, 300 euros a month if you're smart about it. You got 500 euros a month. That's like $600. That's buying me. You know what I mean? If I go over there with $2,000, that's buying me 3-4 months maybe that I can still try to fulfill that dream. You know what I mean?
Right.
So I was thinking about this whole process like an entrepreneur, right?
Smart.
Like because I was thinking like in Serbia, the expenses that I would have monthly are very low. But if I do find a club, and there's a lot of players in Serbia that are making $1 million, $2 million, $3 million a year because they're good players and they have good agents and they sent them out of Serbia. So like the risk for me was low because the expense was low. But if someone saw me and they took me to another club or took me out of Serbia or put me in Serbia to one of the best clubs, my I could have a high salary. So the risk was low, but the payoff was bigger, I thought. So
Right.
I was like, you know what? Like everyone said I was crazy, I was going to Serbia, but I felt like there was not much of a risk. You know what I mean? Because I could always go back to US, I could find a job, I could do this. So I always had that in my back pocket. But I always felt like I wanted to go to Europe and play soccer. So eventually I work enough, I buy my ticket back to Serbia around January. The flight gets all messed up. I go to Berlin. From Berlin, I'm supposed to go to Podgorica. And Podgorica is the capital city of Montenegro. After I go to Podgorica, the flight to Podgorica got all messed up because the Podgorica had the most amount of snow ever in its history over the past 100 years. So we had to go all the way to Croatia. So I had to spend the night in the Croatian airport in Zadar, which is like a port. It's like a port city in Croatia. It's like, from what I've seen, like on pictures, it's beautiful. Like if you want to go on vacation or whatever, it's like a beautiful city. So I had to spend the night with 3 people from Germany and 3 people from Albania, and 2 Croatian police officers. Basically, I was like sleeping on the floor. Waited till the next morning to get to Serbia. Eventually, after like 24 hours, I got to Serbia. So at that time, I was supposed to get my Serbian citizenship. Eventually, there's a quote in Serbia. I don't know. It's like a quote, a saying. Like you're always missing one paper in Serbia. Like you're always missing. Like they're always saying like, oh, you didn't turn that paper in. Oh, you're missing this paper. Oh, you didn't get that stamped. You're always missing one thing.
Right.
So eventually, like I get back to Serbia and this lady calls me. She says, you're missing this paper. I get the paper. I take it to her. A month later, she calls me again, and another lady calls me from that same department and says, we still haven't gotten the paper. So eventually, during that transfer window, I still didn't get Serbian citizenship. So I'm waiting. That guy that I found the first day in that cafe, he told me, he's like, once you get Serbian citizenship, I can find you a club like this. I can find it easier for you. So I said, okay. So I came back basically telling that guy that I would get citizenship within a week or 2, and then after that, just find me a club. And then after that, I'll do the rest. Just let me play and I'll do the rest. So eventually, I don't have citizenship, and the guy's like, I can't do much for you. So one guy from Cleveland knew another guy from Cleveland. It's like, because there's a big
coming through, baby.
Right. There's a big Serbian community. So this guy from Cleveland who my dad knew and I knew as well had a friend who was like an agent or knew some guy. So he actually found me a club in the 2nd division, and I was supposed to go to that club. And they said, you got to come tomorrow to sign a contract with that team. So literally, I'm supposed to go the next day to sign a contract with that 2nd division team, even though I didn't have citizenship. And the reason why that is such a big problem is because every country has a limit on how many foreign players they can have on each team. So in Serbia, you can only have, I think, maybe 3 foreign players, maybe more. But in different countries, the rules are different, right? So like in US, I think you can have 7 or 8 foreign players. So that's why it's such a problem if you don't have Serbian citizenship to try to get into a Serbian club.
Okay.
Because they're trying to push the Serbian players more, to sell them, to have more money. You know what I'm saying? Which is understandable. I respect that. Which is what I think the problem is in the U.S. I think they're not pushing enough U.S. guys or younger players, which is why
I'd love to get trouble. I'm going to pick your brain on that too. All right.
Yeah.
Keep going.
So I got to finish the story. Sorry, it's taking a while, but I think
No, I love the story. I guarantee you. So we have this buddy of mine, Kemp. He's on a lot. He's a big sports guy, and I'm specifically picturing him. But I know, like, remember Will Hubert? You're going to have people just sitting on the edge of their seat listening to your story. Dude, you teased us at the beginning, kind of dangling a carrot like an adorable, like, it could be made a movie. And you're like, okay, dude, this isn't the freaking Notebook. But then you get in the story and you're like, this could be made by Martin Scorsese. Play your cards right, man.
No, so it's crazy.
This is a movie.
Like, I'm not trying to like boast myself, but like people have told me like, dude, this is like a crazy story.
It's a movie, dude. This is a crazy story. I'm loving it.
So where was I at? So I'm supposed to go the next day to that club. And literally that night, my sister sends me a text, and my grandpa from the U.S. passed away. So no, it's all right. I mean, he was 98 years old. He lived his life to the fullest. He was a good man. I learned a lot of stuff from him. I wish everyone could live to 98 years old. He had good experiences, but obviously, the last time I was in the U.S. was basically when I came back for his funeral. So the guy that I was contacting for that club, I told him, I was like, listen, my grandpa passed away. Would it be okay if I came to the city, signed the contract, and came back to the U.S. for his funeral? And he said, listen, he goes, you have 2 options. He says, you either sign the contract and go on a preseason trip to Montenegro with the team, and you can't go back to the U.S. for the funeral, or you go to the funeral and you have no contract. So I live my life on intuition, listening in my stomach, listening to. I think we think too much and we feel too little, and I think that's how we got structured in our school system. If I'm being, and that's another thing that we can talk about. So I made the decision to go back. I made the decision to go back to the U.S. I always thought family comes first, and I just didn't feel right about going to that club and signing the contract and not going to my grandpa's funeral. So I came back to the U.S., was there for a week. I had actually bought a ticket back to Serbia. I had in my mind, that I was going to go to the funeral and come back to Serbia. When I got back to the U.S., my mom and my dad they were very, very weary about me coming back to Serbia. They thought I didn't have a future there. They thought this, that. And I respect it because I know they're always looking for my best interest. Right. But sometimes I think, if I never came back, I would always thought of what if. You know what I'm saying? What if I went to Serbia, tried it one more time, and literally, man, like that whole night, like I literally didn't know if I was going to come back like 10 hours before my flight was like about to go, like to take off. So I had a lot of stress, and I came back to Serbia, and I haven't been back to the U.S. since because of soccer and all this stuff. So I came back, and I waited for a chance. So I was training, and I waited for me to finish the Serbian citizenship, because I would tell that guy to send me to a club and have me train at that club. And then in the summer, I could sign a contract with the team if I showed myself well enough. So I was living in a hostel. For 5 months. In like a hostel, the room is very small. It was like that Rocky Balboa type of mentality. Like, you know how like when boxers go into like the mountains, like for 2-3 weeks before, a month before the fight, just to get like mentally prepared, so that like, you know, when if the chance comes, like you'll be ready, or like when the fight comes, you'll be like prepped and you'll be ready to like tear them to shreds. Like that's the kind of mentality I had. So I was going to the gym. I was doing everything that I could to, if the opportunity did come about, I would be ready. Eventually I got connected with a club, a third division club in Serbia that was by that hostel. And I was training with that club to basically the summer, May, June. So I was in that hostel so my grandpa passed away in February. I came back at the end of February in Serbia. And from February to the beginning of June, I was training, I would say March to the beginning of June, I was training with that club. And but the thing is, I would still go to that cafe every single day where I met that guy. So I was very persistent.
Was he always there?
So he wasn't always there, but I became very close with the owner, and they were good people. They all had good hearts. Every single person at that cafe has a good heart. Some might have got mixed up in some different things, you know what I mean? But they all meant well, and I could see that. And they were all pushing me, I would say, to do what I, you know, like, well, for example, one guy who's always had my back, he was the best judo person in all of the Balkans. And he would go to that cafe. And he was always pushing me to do something or play football, because when he was 20 years old, he kind of went off the wrong path, and he had a very big, bright future. His brother actually won a bronze medal in the Olympics. And so he was always keeping me on the path. You know what I mean? So I always knew these people there were good people. And I would always go to that cafe. So I was training with that team, and I'd go to that cafe. And around May, one guy came into that cafe. And that guy was the nephew of the director of one of the best clubs in all of Serbia for 25 years.
Wow.
The family name is Zečević. They're a very well-known family in Serbia. And this kid heard, he's 30 years old, he heard that I was playing soccer and I was patient and I was coming to the cafe. And he told me, and he was like, maybe I can help you on your path to find something. So within 5 or 6 days, I'm on a phone call with with the sports director of this club, of Partizan. If I say Partizan and Crvena Zvezda, Red Star Belgrade, and Partizan, they're two biggest clubs in Serbia. And they're two of the biggest clubs in all of the Balkan, Eastern Europe. And within 5 days, I have a conversation with this one guy, Ivica Iliev, who was the director of the club at the time. And he told me, he's like, once you finish the paperwork for Serbian citizenship, because at that time I still didn't finish Serbian citizenship, send me the paperwork and we'll give you a trial with the second team of Partizan. And that was the key to unlock the door for me, okay? And so that was around June. Around June, I had this conversation. I was shitting myself because I still didn't finish the paperwork. The paperwork didn't get done. And literally a week before I was supposed to go for preseason with that second team, my paperwork got done. Like divine timing. Like perfect. And so the process that I thought was going to take 2 or 3 months eventually took 9 months.
Oh, jeez.
So I go in to the trial. When I had the conversation with this guy, he told me I'd have a contract for 6 months. I go in to the head coach of the team. I talk to him. He says, "What position do you play?" I say, "I play center back." He says, "Okay, we're looking for a center back." He said, "You have a trial for 10 days." So that 6-month contract that I thought I had got changed to like a 10-day trial. I was not nervous whatsoever. I was prepared for the opportunity. I came in. The second or third day, he called me into the office. He's like, "I want you for our team." He said, "Go play 6 months here." He says, "You're a very good player." He said, "After 6 months, go play either for Partizan," because he knew who my contact was, this Zečević. He's not the director anymore, like the secretary for Partizan anymore. He was maybe 10 years before, but he still has a lot of power within that whole system. And he said, "Go play for Partizan or go play for a first division club." So we go to preseason. I'm doing well. I hurt my knee. I do something with my meniscus. I don't play the first 6 or 7 games of the season. We're not doing well. Eventually, I come back. We have 2 cup games against first division clubs. And in those 2 cup games, one was against Voždovac. We won that game, and we played with a lot of, because that second team for Partizan, we're third division at that time. The team that I was playing with, the Teleoptic, which is Partizan 2, we were third division. And the only reason why I could play with that team is because I had Serbian citizenship, like I said. So it was divine timing that I got the citizenship done a week before.
Wow.
And the two games that I played Voždovac and Čuka, I was the best player. I was for Voždovac, I don't know if I was the best, but I was one of the best players. Against Čuka, they said I was man of the match, and I got my name in the newspaper.
I saw that. I remember that.
To get into that Čuka game, we had to go to penalties. And I took a penalty, and I butchered the penalty, and the goalie made the save. And if he made that save, we lost the game. But I didn't. So the ball, he blocked the shot, and the ball kept rolling, and it went across the line. So, and he wasn't aware that the ball was rolling. So eventually, after 2 more penalties, we won the game. And if that ball didn't cross the line, then I wouldn't have that opportunity with Čuka, that one of the best teams in Serbia, to play them in that second cup game. And I wouldn't have been player of the game. And after that, my world for football, soccer in Serbia opened up, because they were like, who the heck is this guy? You know what I mean? So I got contacted from one guy by one manager, another agent. One guy wanted to take me to the Ukraine. And he wanted to stick me with one of the teams that's actually playing in the Europa League right now. And they're playing against Premier League teams right now, like Leicester City, like they have guys that are taken to Russia. They have, like, this was a very serious club. And eventually I got contacted by a guy who's my agent right now.
So real quick, how did you siphon through all these agents? You're this young kid who's trying to make it and make a name for themselves in this new industry, and you wanted the attention of all these agents, and finally you've reached that pinnacle where now everybody's giving you their attention. How do you know who to trust, what is credible, and who's worth at some point you're going to put all your chips in one basket and kind of allow somebody to maybe not completely cater your career, but certainly have an influence on it. And so how did you kind of siphon out all these people that are now grabbing for your attention?
Right. So there was one guy that I was training with at that Teleoptic Partizan B. He played it for Partizan. He played in Australia. He played in Thailand. He played in Israel. He had a lot of contacts, and he was kind of connecting me with some good people. Good. So I always knew he was a good guy, and I always knew whatever he was saying was the truth. The one guy that
you trusted.
Yeah. So, and the one guy that contacted me after was his name is he was the director. His name is Goran Jovanovic, and he's a director of this one agent in Serbia, probably I would say maybe the best or the second best agent in Serbia. He's one of the top. He's a top tier agent. And
sounds like a James Bond villain.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I mean, I talked to him. He's a good guy. I know he's got like a good reputation in Serbia.
Oh, of course, I'm sure. I'm just kidding.
There's a lot of agents in Serbia, but he's like the top tier agent. And he told, and what was I say? He contacted me, and I sat down. I had coffee with him. He seemed like a good guy. It was his director. I had coffee with, and he came eventually. And he eventually came to speak with me. He actually came to watch me play one game, because this guy is flying all over the place. He had players in Barcelona. He had players in Liverpool. He's had players all over Spain. He's had players all over Europe. So he's big time. He's big time, this agent. So for him to contact me, and at the time, if I'm being honest with you, I had no idea who he was. Like, I was asking my friends who this guy is, because I didn't know who. Like, I literally came there. Like, if you said this guy was a good player, like, I would have no idea. Like, it doesn't. I don't even when I'm going up against guys, I don't care who that guy is, because I prepared myself to the point where I think I can take on a good majority of the players that it doesn't like. Scouts, all that stuff. It's good. Tell me if the guy's fast. Give me a couple of clips, and that's it. You know what I mean? I don't need. Because when you get into the game, you're not thinking this guy does 95% of this. You live off instincts, man. You know what I mean? And
That's
I think
a strong
that
point there.
I think that, and it's good. Like I like film. I like this stuff. It's good to be prepared. But sometimes if you go in too prepared into like a situation, you think too much, and you're not living off your instincts in games. Does that make sense?
100%.
So eventually I finished the season with that team, and I talked to, and that one guy, he connected me with some teams, and I had, a contract with a couple of them, and the idea was that I was supposed to sign with Partizan. And the guy that opened the door with me with Partizan, he said you're going to get a contract, and that's it. So eventually, I get to the new year, and eventually that idea with Partizan kind of fell apart because I didn't have, basically I didn't have an agent. So I kind of declined a couple offers from those agents because the guy that opened the door for me for Partizan was like, you don't need an agent. You're going to sign the contract without one.
Wait, real
and
quick,
he said,
just for a piece of the story, what happened to Vladimir Avramovich, or the famous agent, the James Bond villain? What happened to that agent?
Zoran Stojinovic. I'm sorry. So basically, he's my agent now.
Oh, okay. So
yes.
I jumped the gun.
I
jumped the gun.
So eventually I'm supposed to go with Partizan. I kind of declined a couple offers from some other teams, and I kind of got upset with that because Partizan wouldn't take me. So I tried calling that guy back, that agent Zoran, and his director Goran, and the team that they had kind of figured out for me, or they thought that I could go to, they found players in my position. So eventually, without an agent or anything, I did sign a contract with Partizan because the guys, I think the coach that was the coach from my team, he kind of pushed that just for me to have pay, to have all, because when I was playing with Partizan B, it's an amateur club. They're not professional, so we had no pay. So basically, I was just kind of working for free, right? But like again, I said the standard is low, so I could live off. My parents didn't pay for my college, so they were like, "Listen, you have a year to figure it out. If you'll have money for a year. If you don't figure it out by then you're on your own." And I think that's fair. I think it was fair. They didn't pay for my college, so that was kind of their way of bringing it back to me. Like, listen, we didn't have to spend money in this avenue of your life. We're going to spend it in this. And I was like, right. And I thought that was fair. It was correct. So eventually I signed the contract with Partizan, which is without an agent, which is very rare, I think, to do. And at the age that I was at 25, it's even more rare, I would say. But I played very well. And eventually Corona happened, and I didn't play games I played 2 games, and in the spring season I didn't play at all. So I was thinking maybe Partizan will sign me in the summer because maybe some sort of management, something will change. And eventually they didn't sign me again. They didn't want to update my contract. And a lot of the guys were telling me, and I had a contract till January. So I signed a contract with Partizan at the end of January, February. So I signed a contract for a year. And that contract expired in January, February. So in the summertime, I was getting offers from one team, another team, to get away from Partizan, from their second team. But I'm like that, where I don't like to force things. So I was kind of committed to stay with Partizan. But then I saw that they signed another player, and I thought it was just best if I kind of got away. And I contacted that Zečević guy who opened the door for me with Partizan, and he knows that Zoran Stojinovic, that manager, that agent. And he said, "Listen, I heard you contacted this kid. He is your player if you want him." He said, I want him. Within 24 hours, a couple of teams contacted me, and I came here to Bačka Palanka, which is where I'm at now. I came at the beginning of the season, literally the day before the season started. The first 2 games, they didn't finish my paperwork. I waited for my chance. In the ninth game, I played against Javor at home, and I was the man of the match. And for the next 5 or 6 games, I was playing every single game. I was doing well. I hurt my knee. I had a like tendonitis in my knee, so I took a week off, and a new coach came in. So now I'm kind of just waiting for my chance to get back in to the team. We have another week. We have 1 week left in the season. I'm playing well. I'm going to see what the winner. Well, I got to go speak with the club, the president here, and we'll see what's going to happen within the next week. But that's basically the whole story. The gist of the story is if the taxi driver didn't mess up the street the first day, I wouldn't have found that cafe. If my grandpa didn't pass away that same exact day, when I would be signing a contract with that other team, and I wouldn't have the connections that I had now. And if that one kid didn't randomly come into that cafe that one day, then I wouldn't be at I wouldn't be at Partizan, or I wouldn't have that door open for Partizan. And I have another kind of coincidence. When I came to the club here in Palanca, the president calls me over the second or third day I'm here, and he goes, Radjen, where's your family from? Where's your dad from? And I told him, I was like, listen, my dad's from this like city by Croatia, Sin, but he was by Split. And he goes, no, it's not Sin. He said, it's Selo, which is like village, Otasic. And I was like, how do you know he's from that Selo, that village? And he goes, and this is the owner of the club. And he goes, because my family is from that same Selo. And I asked him what his last name is, and he said Irnic. And I said, well, my grandma's name is her name was Dara Irnic. And I was like, are we family? And he goes no, but he goes, I know your cousin from Chicago. I know your cousin from here. So like, I think when you're kind of like on the right path in your life, or if you have the courage to follow, I would say, your heart, or maybe your stomach, or maybe your intuition, there will be types of synchronicities or coincidences to show you that you're on the right path.
Do you want to know where my grandfather's from? My grandfather's from Split.
Yeah.
Croatia.
Split, Croatia. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. So maybe it's a coincidence that, we're
just saying.
Brought together. Maybe my message or something can get, maybe we can help people.
Well, so let's pick apart. I'm going to pick your brain then a little bit on that message. So kind of bringing it back to a theme, synchronicities, one of the words that kind of stuck out to me that you brought up. Before we go down a rabbit hole, though, I do want to just point out, when you make a comment about who still uses measuring in meters, I just want to remind you that those are all the people that haven't made it to the moon. So just as long as you know that, we're good.
Right. Right.
Going back to the synchronicities, I'm a true believer in that everything's connected. One thing I took away from my college experience, so it was different in that, I had the very stereotypical go off for 4 years and, grow more than you did when you were in grade school. Right. And the one thing I always said I learned from college, like the one theme that I will always take away, the biggest learning lesson was it'll never get done unless you do it yourself, because there were a lot of hurdles. I would get myself in trouble, or I would get my back against the wall. And I realized at a very young age that you're never going to get out of it unless you do it yourself. And the one lesson that brought about is that there's always a hurdle, and this journey never ends until you turn off like a light switch, until it's over and the show comes to an end and the curtains drop. There's always another hurdle. And it seems like a daunting task. How can I conquer this thing when it's just exhausting and it never ends? But it also, I feel, is it kind of like, the crumbs to the gingerbread house, or, the witch's house in the woods. Like you need something to get you to move. I'm a big believer in determinism. I believe that everything is connected. If we were to rewind history back to the year 200, it would still play out to me. And Danilo sitting here on Zoom, right? I'm a believer in that. And so while I believe free will isn't real, I believe it's an illusion we need to act, to be out here acting. Because if I knew everything was connected and my choice wasn't real, I would just sit on the couch and not act. So it provokes us. So I think we get little anecdotal successes to keep us moving. But I only say all of that because it is crazy how everything always works itself out. And I think it only works itself out for those that are proactive, who are out in the world acting. And there's too many people. And now what's crazy is it brings it to another point I wanted to bring up.
Actually, I'm gonna
yes.
Well,
please.
But because I think I have a good point to make.
Yes.
So basically, I was waiting a lot of the time to hear from agents to finish me something in Europe. But eventually, basically, I just had to go myself to figure it out, which is what you're talking about. And another thing is people like to help people that when they see that you're trying to help yourself. Does that make sense?
100%.
And at the same time, I'm trying to make 3 points in a row from everything that you're saying. So I'm trying to keep the list.
I threw a lot at you.
I don't know if you ever heard of Joseph Campbell. I don't know if you ever heard of Joseph Campbell. He's got a book. I don't know if it's called a book, but it's called The Hero's Journey.
I have totally. Yes, I have heard of that book.
Yes, Hero's Journey. And during my journey, I came across that. And it talks about synchronicities. It talks about mentors. It talks about all this stuff. And how every man or whatever, I don't even know, woman as well, they have a calling within themselves. And it's their duty, to do that, And I don't know, maybe it's that inner voice. It's that God. It's whatever that's telling them. And for me, that was my calling. So that hero's journey, that Joseph Campbell. So I'm sorry, you're about to ask me a question, but I would look into Joseph Campbell and that hero's journey type of perspective, because that I had a lot of even on my path, I was still having questions like, how is this happening to me? And that kind of, because all films are based off that hero's journey. Every single film is based off that hero, like in Star Wars. And I remember because he was talking about how Star Wars, the whole plot for Star Wars is basically, I have never even seen Star Wars, but he was referencing it. And I was like, holy shit. And then he was referencing this other movie, Lord of the Rings. Bilbo Baggins goes on his path. He needs to finish something. I watched Lord of the Rings. I love Lord of the Rings. I could talk about Lord of the Rings. It might even be a true story. I can get into that stuff. Because Tolkien said, he goes, my stories are not a metaphor. And if you go to Iceland, they will say they think elves are real. There are elves maybe in the world. I'm not I'm open-minded.
Now you've opened Pandora's box.
Listen.
We need to.
I'm sorry. I opened I opened Pandora's box, but I'm very open-minded. But at the same time, look into Joseph Campbell, Hero's Journey. It's a very eye-opening way to look at a man's journey, I would say.
I think you're 100% right, and I think there is a longing in the human experience to find that. I'm going to get to a point that you brought up when you were telling us your story, because it fits in perfectly. But you brought up how people want to help people who are trying to help themselves. I'll tell you what, I work in a courthouse, and the most disheartening thing that I deal with on a daily basis, I talk about it with the clerks, I talk about it with the judge. I'm telling you, nothing is more disheartening in my profession than the fact that you want to help people more than they want to help themselves. And so we live in a world telling us that you, Danilo, fighting for your dream in Serbia is the reason this person is struggling in Garfield Heights. But at the end of the day, the fact of the matter is that person doesn't want to help themselves. I got on my soapbox a little bit, but I 100% agree with you that I feel like at the end, my grandmother taught me at a very young age, 50% of this world wakes up every day trying to figure out ways to screw over the other 50%. But the other part that kind of alludes to is that half of this world just wants to do right, just wakes up, wants to have a happy, successful family, wants to end at the end of the day or at the end of their life, at the end of the day when the sun goes down, to say, I'm happy with my productivity. So with my first comment, it's you said when you were telling us your story that high school teaches us how to think and not how to feel, and that there's just some things that you need to feel with intuition. What stinks is I feel is, and this might really complicate the quagmire with a guy that hasn't been speaking English for a while, but I feel as if language does us a disservice, because when I think, and what brought us together, what provoked this conversation is, you're on this journey of enlightenment just as much as you're on this journey of reaching your dream. And you've been finding a lot of content and curating a lot of messages that resonates with me, and I find it very powerful. So when you say feel, it isn't, I feel offended. It's some spiritual intuition guiding us. That's the dichotomy, the difference, the divergence in the word feel. And so when you first say, I think high school teaches us how to think and not how to feel, I want to play with this is the lawyer in me. I just want to play with the language a little bit differently and say that high school academics, and I'll tell you at the highest level of academics in law school, they sure as hell are not teaching you how to think. We are making stormtroopers. We are building drones. We were sitting there in evidence class. My professor goes, who in here really wants to learn about the legal theory, right? We're just here to learn about the legal law. And I raise my hand. And she's like, what? You want to talk about the theory? Now, I went to school I have 2 degrees, philosophy and political science. So, yeah, that's really the only reason I want to be here. I want to know why you're making a rule, not just what the rule is. And I'll tell you what, I was a lone wolf. The whole room was like, I want a loser. Why do you want to know the theory? And I felt alone. And these people, I sat in class before class one day, and I don't even care about the reality of the facts. It's more of the situation. This girl goes, yeah, did you know Mike Pence is pro-lobotomy? And I go, that's not true. That's just not true. He might be into some weird stuff. That's not it. And she goes, no, he's pro-lobotomy. And I'm Googling. I'm like, I'm finding nothing of the sort. And in fact, I'm finding only things that say that's not true. She goes, no, I know it's not. I know it's true. Another girl pipes in, it is true. He's pro-lobotomy. Now, I just say all of this because I left that class. I go and do more research. Turns out the dude is not pro-lobotomy for gays. Sorry to break anybody's heart, break your reality. It's just not the case. But I learned some other weird things on my research that this guy doesn't let women read the Bible. That's kind of weird. So I learned more. But then here's somebody, her reality is being called out by somebody else, and she would rather be more comfortable marching in blind ignorance than do any research to find out that maybe her opinion isn't, or it might be mildly misguided. So I'm telling you, they are not teaching us how to think. And the unfortunate thing is now they're teaching us how to know. And the knowledge they're giving us is not real or based or tethered in reality. So what they know is some delusion, but they know. And so I don't have to think, I know. And then that knowledge completely departs us from centuries of hard work and gospel and knowledge, true knowledge with a capital K. And now we don't know how to feel spiritually. So I want to ask you a little bit, and that was a huge soapbox.
No, you're good. No,
I want to pick your brain on your spiritual journey, kind of some of the things you picked up on. What kind of mine? I can say what sparked the wick was philosophy course, being thrown into literature that I would never have read and wasn't happy to read a lot of it. Now I'm exposed to a whole new way of thinking. That's what sparked it for me. I want to know what exposed you to this, what sparked this journey, and some of the tidbits and fun little nuggets you've picked up on the way.
Yeah, so I think this was around my sophomore year at Cleveland State. I had 2 concussions in a month, and I always felt like I had pressure in my head, right? And I kind of was just playing with it. I healed myself. I was okay, but I still felt like I had that pressure in my head during the spring season. And eventually I went to the University of Akron. And about a month before I went to Akron, I was getting migraines every single day. And those migraines persisted for about 5 or 6 months after the first day that I got it. And I couldn't play in the fall season because the migraines were just so debilitating. And eventually the team, because I told them they all branched off the concussions that I had 6 year ago or whatever, 7, 8 months ago. And I said, that's kind of the start of the whole downfall for me with this pressure. My head migraines. So they sent me to one of these doctors in Pittsburgh who was supposed to be a very well-renowned doctor for concussions. A lot of professional athletes go to him. Cristiano Ronaldo.
It was Will
plays
Smith?
soccer. What's up? No. Actually,
was it a Nigerian guy? What
No.
Guy from the movie? It's
not him.
Like a cameo in your movie.
Yeah. No, it's not that guy. It's not the guy. The guy's a good guy. He's a good guy, but he's helped people. Like, I think some of his things, the physical therapy, all that stuff, it works. You know what I mean? It helped me. But at the same time, I went there and he gave me these antidepressants for my migraine. And within a month, I was very anxious. And to put it simply, I became depressed. And it was like, and I was never depressed. I was always like a jolly kind of guy. And eventually these antidepressants kind of messed me up, right? And I went back to the guy and I was like, listen, man, like these things kind of messed me up. I'm thinking this way, I'm thinking that way. And he goes, no, I mean, like, you're depressed. Like, you got to handle it. And I was like, man, I wasn't like this before. And eventually I was like thinking to myself, I'm like, you know, if this guy can't help me, who's going to help me? And it was the University of Akron. This was in the fall. I had one teacher, and his name was Toby Jurging, and he was completely off the book. He was that type of guy that made you think. He made you feel. He made you think in class. He wasn't just regurgitating PowerPoint. He literally did everything off his head, like everything off his brain. And he said no disease should exist if you eat the right foods. And at that time, I was still having migraines. And he gave us a diet. He said, throw away milk that's pasteurized, throw away sugars, throw away this protein things. It has a lot of chemicals. I was like, listen, man, I'm desperate. And I tried it. Within the first 3 days, that pressure in my head that I had started to go away. And I was like, holy shit, there's something to this. So at that same time, I eventually was going to see a psychologist, but it was more of a holistic psychologist. I don't know. She wasn't prescribing pills. So it wasn't like, so I was going to her, and she opened the door for meditation for me. And so the combination of, and then this Toby, this teacher, I asked him, give me a couple books for me to read so I can understand these topics more. And man, within probably a year and a half, 2 years, I was reading 3-4 books a week. I was learning a lot of different things. I was meditating. So the lady, my psychologist, wonderful lady, she got me on a meditation, and she gave me this one meditation that was like, it worked for me for the first month. And actually it was crazy. I remember the day when I completely became like, when I saw my brain was changing. I came out of my apartment because it's like an awakening. I don't know how to explain it. It's just like an awakening where you just become very aware and you start living in the present moment, right? I came out of my apartment and I went out of the parking deck and I just like stopped, and I could hear this. I could hear this. I could hear the train from like 50 feet away. I could hear, it's like you took that Limitless drug, right? And either like that movie Limitless, but you were just living in the moment. And I paused and I was like, and it was like, it was a very surreal experience. And I was like, all the programming that I was like, had in my brain was starting to dissipate, right? Eventually, I'm starting to listen to some podcasts. I started Bulletproof Podcast. I don't know if you ever heard of Bulletproof Coffee. I started listening to this guy's podcast. I started reading different types of books. Through the Bulletproof Podcast, I got into binaural beats meditation. I don't know if you know what binaural beats are, which is basically raising your brain waves, because there's different types of brain waves that you have, and you're trying to, the Buddhist monks, all these guys, they're living in like alpha brainwave states, delta, beta is like the lowest, I think. And this binaural beats is basically progressing you to live at higher brainwave states, frequencies. Because at the end of the day, as Nikola Tesla would say, if you want to know the secrets of the universe, you have to think in terms of energy, frequency, and vibration. So you have to, your body, in essence, is a frequency. It's an electrical field. Your heart generates an electrical field. So that type of meditation was raising, I would say, my brainwave frequency to live in the present moment. And I was bashing down kind of the walls of the programming that I've been brought up to believe. Basically, in society,
it is programming.
Yeah, the program. Basically, in society today, I think we need to unlearn everything that we've been taught.
Isn't that crazy?
Unlearn a lot of the stuff that we've been taught. I wouldn't say everything, because I think it's a bunch of useless shit, if I'm being honest with you. So that happened. I started getting to that type of thinking in my third year of college. I didn't even see the point of college. I eventually, listen to this. I lost a lot of weight because the antidepressants and all that stuff. I got down to 162, 163. I'm like always 180. Eventually, through my reading and all that stuff, I found like digestive enzymes that would help digest foods, and I found herbs, like not like marijuana or anything, but herbs for hormones. And one of the herbs that within a month I gained all my 18 pounds back by taking these herbs, because it balanced your hormonal system. So these herbs are called adaptogenic herbs. Write that down. I don't know if you want to take a note, because these adaptogenic herbs are, out of 5,000 herbs, I think one herb can be an adaptogenic herb. And these herbs live in very remote places where life cannot where there's no life surrounding it. So, for example, this Rhodiola rosea lives in the mountains in Siberia. So basically, they've adapted themselves to their surroundings, whether it's too cold, whether it's too hot, they're able to thrive. So the theory is if we take these adaptogenic herbs in whatever circumstance we have, whether it's stress, physical, mental, these adaptogenic herbs are like a thermometer or something. It'll keep your system in balance. Does that make sense?
Yes.
And now in China, like there's these medicinal mushrooms. I don't know if you heard of reishi, cordyceps. These are considered adaptogenic herbs, and people were living. There was like one society in China. I forgot what the astragalus. They were drinking astragalus tea, and every single one of these people was living to like 110 years old, 120 years old, because these adaptogenic herbs, whether it's pollution, whether it's this, they're always bringing your body back to a homeostatic balance. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So for me, taking that adaptogenic herb within that month, I brought myself back into balance hormonally to 180 pounds. I gained 18 pounds, and I didn't change my diet really, and I gained 18 pounds within a month. And that was during, that was during my fourth year. I think that was my first year after my redshirt year at Akron, and I gained those 18 pounds back.
So is there a particular species or genus of these
herbs?
Yes, herbs that what do you use in your diet that you rely on?
I don't use them anymore.
Okay.
I was using Rhodiola rosea for a good amount of time. Eventually I felt like I didn't need it anymore, especially when I came to Serbia. The food quality here in Serbia is 10 times better than it is in US. The US food system is absolutely horrific. They spray everything. They put GMOs. They genetically modify our food. I might piss off some people, but I think this is the truth. And I think we're sicker than we've ever been. And that's the motive, because if you're sick, then you won't be able to tap into your spiritual light within the human being. For example, Novak Djokovic, I saw him in airports. And I would say he's one of the very spiritually enhanced or spiritually enhanced beings on our planet that has a platform to teach people how to live that health and wellness type of lifestyle. And I saw him in an airport, and I don't know why, I saw his aura. Like, he was just light. Does that make sense? Like, I don't know how to explain it, but that's how every human being should be if they eat the right foods. And it's our true nature to love rather than, and he's a very loving guy. He's competitive on the tennis court, but outside, I think he's a very loving guy. He has no enemies. And because of that, I think, and I didn't like him. When I saw him, because that type of human being that has that light, he brings out all the bad stuff in you. Does that make sense?
Right.
So that's why people who are a light in the world have a lot of enemies, because they bring out all that bad stuff in those people. Does that make sense? And people aren't aware of the things that they're bringing up, these people who have that light. So they try to repel what they brought up rather than look at it, understand it, and take it and not use that, have that program in their body or in their mind anymore. Does that make sense? I'm sorry. I'm
No. But Plato always said the most hated man in the community is the one that speaks truth to it. So
Right.
The person that is out here enlightening and kind of shining light in the dark shadows is the person that's going to become the most disliked person in society. Trust me, dude, as somebody who, listen, I have my career, law and everything else, but this is my real dream. This is, I think, my true calling. And I'll tell you what, one of my greatest competitions or the biggest hurdle for me is noticing that I will have anybody on here. Any person that is willing to sit down and talk. I don't care if you're liberal. I don't care if you're conservative. I probably will outwit you in a debate. That's why I'm willing to do it. Let's sit here and debate. And the sad part is, dude, I learned this in my fraternity. I was very politically motivated in my fraternity because I was a politically motivated person. And so I loved meeting every day on Sundays to debate actual policy for ourselves, rules that we were going to make, how we were going to, if we got in trouble with the school, how we're going to approach it, all of these things. And there was a very clear divide. It felt like Congress. I did student Congress in debate, and I did student government in school, in high school. And so I kind of have an idea of what it's like, but I think that's the closest thing in my life to a Congress of people. And it was split in the middle, just like we see everywhere else. There were, and I will admit, like my nature, I leaned to the side that wanted to push the envelope more than the side that wanted to. You looked at some of these guys, and it's like, guys, if we want to grow, we want to be cooler, we can't play it so innocent. But then also, you can't go so far that you're not it's toxic. You're doing dangerous things, or you're getting yourself in trouble. It's this balance. And one thing I learned in that room was, and I'm sorry for being long-winded to get to this point, but the one thing I learned was you would have somebody, let's say somebody goes, I want Billy to be a new recruit. Billy should get a bid. And you'd have guys go, guy, he can't talk to a wall. I'm not trying to be a here, but he can't talk. Or, there was a kid that I brought in. He had a stutter, but he was a funny, nice kid. And so there's two-dimensional critiques where it's like, oh, he stutters, blah. And then there's other real critiques where you're like, hey, this guy's got an accusation of, sleeping with his girlfriend when she was drunk. And it's like, yeah, we should probably just nix that. What I learned was when somebody would go, hey, I think we should get my friend from high school, or I know this is my girlfriend's brother. If you critique that person, it was as if you were critiquing the person who was offering them took it just as personal. So people don't want to, and I know this is very metaphorical, not rooted in kind of the political conversation, but people would rather be right than liberated from their ignorance, and they will fight tooth and nail to defend their ignorance than to be liberated from it. And apologize for being so long-winded on that, but it's just, I think you made a really great point. And the saddest part is people feel comfortable in their ignorance. And we live in a world now that is hyperactive in reassuring those ignorances. It's a shame. I made one of the proudest videos I ever made. I don't know how familiar you are with Andrew Schultz, but he does this like rant. And I was like, I think I could do that. So I wrote one. And literally, Danilo, all I talk about is that it probably isn't healthy that a country has 2 national anthems, right? Like, I'm not speaking the color of the national anthem or whatever. It just probably isn't healthy. And kind of just pointing to that. Right. And every person I showed it to goes, that's one of the coolest videos you ever made. That is really powerful. Don't post it. You won't get hired. You will lose your job. You will not have a profession. You will not have a future. And so it's this dichotomy of you either get in line and be a sheep and eat the shitty food, think the shitty ideas, and become the same shitty drone they want you to be. Right. You're the outcast that is only going to be, you're going to be that fish swimming upstream the whole time. So it's exhausting, but some people make it to the top of the stream. Long-winded.
I love being the fish that goes against us. Like, how many people told me I was crazy when I came to Serbia? They still tell me I'm crazy. I love it when they tell me I'm crazy. After 6 months, when I signed a contract with Partizan, a lot of people went, nothing. No one spoke. The problem is Serbian people are very good people, but I came across a lot of people that always find a problem with every solution. Does that make sense?
Oh, yeah.
Maybe some people are like jealous that I had the courage to go try something and they didn't have the courage in their life to go try something. So maybe they're the ones that are, so they're telling me to, hey man, go. But they're like, why would you go from America to Serbia to this, to, you know what I mean? Like, I tell people America's good if you want to make money, you want to do this. But what you see on the films is not really the truth. You know what I mean? And I think America does give you an opportunity, right? But every person's different, man. Every person, I'm not here bashing anything. You know what I mean? I'm just saying you got to do.
The only thing I want to make is you're not bashing anything, but to your point, everybody has a problem with every solution, but I want to live in a world where you don't get to have a problem with the solution unless you got a new one to offer. It may not be the answer, but I don't want people, you either be a thinker and participate or stand on the sidelines and watch the players play. You know what I'm saying?
Right. No, you're 100% right. You're 100% right. And like for me, man, like when I see someone doing something that they want to, I don't care if you're an artist or you're not going to make money for the first 5 years, or you're not going to, but if you like doing that, if that brings you 1 ounce of happiness, more happiness than you're working your day job, man, go do it. I'm telling you, just go do it. Because what we're seeing now in Corona and this stuff, you never know what's going to happen the next day. You don't know who's gonna pass away, who's going to just live, man, live your life. And I love my parents, but do what you got to do for yourself as well, man. You know what I mean? Because sometimes if you listen to not even I'm not even saying my parents, but your friends or whatever, you gotta just go for it, man. Like a lot of people will tell you not to do things, but you just gotta go. You gotta do what's best for yourself.
That is sound advice, and I retweet. I cannot agree more. That's sound advice, and I hope people take it. Now, Danilo, I had a couple articles picked just in case we hit a lull and something that would provoke conversation. Not to get sidetracked, dude, but this is freaking wild. It is 4:20, ironically, amen to Jesus, and we started at 3 o'clock. So at 3 o'clock, maybe 2:45, 2:50, I pulled this article, right? And I noticed that the tab changed in the middle of us talking. Right. The article title changed. Now, the reason I pulled the article was because of the article title. And it was Houston doctor gets what's coming to him. Okay. Dies of COVID. And I'm like, that takes some gall to put as a title. Right. So I picked it up to see if I could, I was going to bring it into a comment to our conversation we were just having. And they changed it to Houston doctor succumbs to COVID after months of saving patients. And it's like, huh, who caught that and thought it was a good idea to change it? Either some kid was like, oh, we're just going down in a fiery blades of glory, or somebody thought it was a great idea and they just lost their job. Either way, whoa.
Listen, the stuff that they put on the new, like, I was watching, like, I follow this one guy on Instagram, and I don't know if you saw, like, they're saying, like, how this lady in England, like, basically she got the first corona vaccine, like, this older lady, and she's walking out of the hospital, they're taking pictures of her, like, she's like, courage, whatever, but she's posting up with she's like making the Illuminati sign, bro.
Let's get into that. Hold on, pause, time out. Now you've opened you opened the Pandora's box. I called it out, and you quickly closed it. The Pandora's box is open, dude. I have not seen since the pandemic. If there is an ad or a picture she posts, there's not a picture of Lady Gaga without covering just one eye. She's always done that. But since the pandemic, I have not seen her without one eye being covered. And I want to learn a little bit more about the Lord of the Rings, dude. First off, we talk about energies and everything else.
People are going to think I'm nuts, bro.
I'm with you. Dude, this is the party of nuts people. We all live in the same group.
I'm going to say something real quick. Big thing for me, kind of being open-minded with all this stuff, like I said, is meditation. And meditation, I'm telling you, everyone needs to meditate or do some sort of meditation, get back out in nature, walk, because then you can see your thoughts. You need to clean your diet up, because if you clean your diet up, you can get to a higher state of enlightenment or a state of tranquility or presence that you have not experienced before in your life. Two things that I'm going to say that people probably don't even know. Change your toothpaste, get a natural toothpaste, because there's a lot of fluoride that will cover up your third eye. And at the same time, toothpaste has artificial sweeteners. There's a book called, I think it was written in the I don't know. It's called Neurotoxins. It has like, toothpaste has aspartame. It's got like sorbate. It's got all these artificial sweeteners that elevate your nervous system, that hurt I think trigger your fight or flight. So I always had migraines when I was having that period of migraines. I had migraine. I changed my diet. The only thing I didn't change, I was still getting migraines, was my toothpaste. I changed my toothpaste. I never had migraines anymore.
Dude, you know what's crazy is
gum.
I'm going to change my language. The thing that's most heartbreaking is you're the one deemed crazy when you start considering this. And dude, when you go, hey guys, probably, studies are showing there's probably a little too much fluoride in the water here. They go, oh, what? You crazy? You don't trust the government? You don't trust I go, what? The same government that put LSD in the water to see what a town on LSD would do? Guys, check your sources. That happened. The United States government put LSD in the water just to see what would happen. And it's like, oh, but they would never put too much fluoride in the water to screw with your chemistry. But then McDonald's puts nicotine in your French fries to get you addicted to a chip. And you're going to go, oh, but, that's a corporation, not Big Daddy Trump.
Right.
I completely agree with you, dude. It's everywhere, though. It's everywhere.
Right.
But what stinks is, do I think 5G is going to have me grow a second arm? No. But is there maybe some... But you don't even get to wrestle with it. You know what I mean? Like, if you're somebody who's like, maybe, should we even find out if this is healthy? If you're somebody who even starts questioning it, they go, oh, look at you. You're a conspiracy theorist. Get your tinfoil hat. It's like, no, I'm not there yet. I'm not saying it's bad for us, but am I not allowed to start? The second they disarm us from the ability to just question, right? Why?
Yeah,
what is the legal theory behind the, it's like, why aren't we allowed to just go, wait, are we sure this is healthy? Are we sure we should have fluoride in the water? Sorry, but.
No, but the thing that you brought up with 5G, like I said, like, you're throwing out a new frequency out into the world. So like the Spanish flu, right, in 1918, that was the first time they threw out the radio frequency. So during that time, they threw out the radio frequency, and that is why the Spanish flu came about, right? Because when you throw out that new frequency, you're messing up the frequency of your own electrical system, your own body. It lowers the oxygen level. And basically a virus, from what I've done my research, is when your body becomes very toxic and it's basically trying to. So whenever you have a temperature, I'm very into holistic medicine. I healed myself, and I haven't taken medicine maybe in 6 or 7 years. So whenever your body has like a fever, it's actually your body warming itself up to kill that fungus or virus in the body. So it's your body's natural reaction, which is good. And we all take these, oh, I need to lower my fever. I need to lower. No, you just let your body heal itself. Let your body heal itself, right? And so 1918, the Spanish flu, they threw out the radio frequency. Now with the 5G, like, you know, people are saying they don't have the no smell or no taste, which from what I heard from doing my own research is a symptom of radiation poisoning. So maybe that might be due to the 5G that they're acute what they're putting on streets. And another thing is, I don't know if you are familiar with you know how the Amazon rainforest was burning down, right?
Right.
So that was like a year. That was last year, maybe in November, December. And I remember telling my friend, because the Amazon rainforest is Mother Nature's lungs, right? So basically, our physical body is directly correlated to Mother Nature. And I remember telling my friend in November and December, I was like, I will not be surprised if we have problems with our lungs because Mother Nature's lungs have problems. Does that make sense? So that Mother Nature's lungs provide oxygen to our whole planet. And if she has problems and she's not providing the oxygen to our planet, we're going to have oxygen problems as well. And that's why I think people might be having problems with their lungs. But at the same time, with the corona situation, we've opened up Pandora's box. So listen. So with the corona situation, if I scare you, right? If I scare you, I go boo, right? The first thing that goes is your breath, right? If I scare you and you go back to normal within 10 seconds, your body goes back to the homeostasis. You bring yourself back into normal breathing, right? If I scare you and you hold that fright for 6 months, right? Breathing becomes very hampered. Does that make sense? When your breathing becomes very hampered, you have more acidity in your blood. When you have more acidity in your blood, you have more opportunities for viruses, fungus, and your immunity drops, right? So I was listening to this podcast 2-3 years ago. I think it was on the Bulletproof podcast. Maybe it was even longer ago. I don't know why this quote always resonated with me. It was a doctor, and he always talked about people that had cancer. And he said, people that had cancer, if you looked at if you asked them about it, they either had some traumatic experience 6 months or a year before they started to have cancer. Because that traumatic experience messes up their normal breathing, because breathing is life, right? And the thing that they're trying to do with corona is take away your breathing, which is your life force, which is your chi, what they say in China. So the people that are wearing, in my opinion, if the people that are wearing masks, it's lowering your oxygen, which is messing up your lungs. And at the same time, if you're living in a constant state of stress, which is what people are doing, your body's becoming very acidic. And your body is then open to more forms of viruses or funguses or maybe cancer. Does that make sense? So I think it's a spiritual war. I think this might be World War III, and it's a spiritual war. It's a psychological war, and I think the prize is the soul.
That's why it's a war against an invisible enemy. Some would say.
Right. And I think Prince said this in 1999 or whatever when he was like the Yahoo Awards.
One thing I wanted to say is don't be fooled by the internet. It's cool. It's cool to get on the computer, but don't let the computer get on you. It's cool. It's cool to use the computer. Don't let the computer use you. You all saw The Matrix. There is a war going on. The battlefield's in the mind. And the prize is the soul. So just be careful. Be very careful. Thank you.
He talked about it, who knows, and he was always talking about chemtrails, and what do you know, Prince died. They said he had an overdose on drugs. Who knows what the real story is, but I don't really listen to the news anymore. I haven't watched the news in 6 months, in 6 years. So I kind of do my own type of research, and yeah, man, I just, be open-minded, and for the people that maybe are still listening, be open-minded, but do not have fear, man. They don't talk about anything about how to raise your immunity at all on the news. I take cold showers every single day. I don't know if you ever heard of Wim Hof. Look into Wim Hof. Cold showers are very good for hormonal, testosterone. Obviously, warm showers are good as well. I haven't taken a warm shower in about maybe 8. I'll go into saunas. I'll do different things. You know what I mean? I might change the warm to cold. Like even if it's like 20 degrees out, I'll take a cold shower. I love it. I've gotten used to it.
Really? Now, how cold?
Yeah.
How cold?
So listen. So I spoke to family members that live in mountains, right? And they would tell me that in the winter, they would get the mountain. We call it izvorska voda, mountain water, and it's cold in the winter, right? So they shower that way, and now we've come to the city and everything's warm. And I think it might be Chinese medicine. Warm water actually keeps negative energy within you. And cold shower actually cleanses your aura, and it cleans you out. And the difference that I feel from taking cold showers consistently is crazy, man. It really works the cardiovascular system, and I think it's very beneficial. I think it's one way to really. It's a meditation. It's a meditation because there's meditations that you can do throughout your daily life that help you live in the present. Taking a cold shower when it's 30 degrees outside is one of the first ways to completely live in the moment, because then you automatically go back to your breath, because then your breath has to stay calm. And if you don't stay calm, you hyperventilate, then the cold shower is going to hit you faster and you're going to freak out and you have to get out within 5 seconds. If you control your breath for 3-4 minutes, you stay in that meditative state. Cold shower becomes warm after 3 or 4 minutes. Does that make sense?
It does. It does.
So there's a lot of changing your toothpaste, drinking good water. Try spring water. Stay away from the tap water. I think eating good foods. Even I'm big on this Weston A. Price diet. It's a high fat diet, but it's all based off this guy. He was a dentist in Cleveland, and he went on to these remote places where they didn't have grocery stores, they didn't have this, and he was studying these people, and a lot of these people had high fat diets, like Serbian people that live in the mountains in the city. They all eat, they eat butter, they eat cheese, they eat raw milk, and that's why they're strong. That's why they're strong people, and that's when. And this guy, he was a dentist, and he saw these people had no problems with their teeth. Not one person had a problem with their teeth. No braces, nothing, and he realized that. Human beings are perfect. We're perfect. Our bodies are supposed to be perfect. We're supposed to be healthy. We're supposed to be strong, and we're supposed to be intelligent. But through diet, through stress, through all this stuff, we've completely lost control of that. So now it's up to us to bring ourselves back into that state of health, of strength, and of happiness. Because when you're healthy, when you're happy, when you're strong, you're always happy. And that's the key. That's the key to life, is to be all those 3 things. Because if you don't have your health, you don't have anything, right? So this guy, he did Weston A. Price. He did studies on these people. These people they lived long lives. They lived healthy lives. They had no disease, and they had perfect teeth. And he was treating his patients who were dentists with cod liver oil, with butter, which was like a ghee, with another ghee. And he was treating his patients with these things. And he's a dentist, cavities, everything.
Wow. That's really incredible.
So Look into that guy for, I don't know. I've tried vegan. I've tried vegetarian. I feel like maybe later in life I could be a vegetarian if I'm living off, in a mountain where I have mountain water. I have this stuff because water's the key. Water's the key, man. Water. 93% of the body is water. It is the electrical current for the human body. And the water that we have, the water that we're drinking is terrible. I feel they throw everything in it. In the US, it's expensive. Like if I go try to buy Deer Park or some sort, it's like $3, and Coca-Cola is like 99 cents. That's telling you everything. They don't want you to be healthy. They don't want you to question, because if you're healthy, then you start questioning and you can start thinking for yourself. So they don't want that. So just do the best that you can for your immunity. That's all I'm saying. And I don't know, man. No fear. Everything calm. Go hug people, man. Like they want you to stay away from people. They want you. I always tell people. I'm sorry. I'm going on a big rant right now, but happiness will do you more for your immunity than you staying secluded and not wanting to see your family members.
Yeah, being afraid of your family on Thanksgiving.
Right, exactly. And that is one thing that I'm totally against. And that is one thing. And actually, I think I've listened to some doctors that have completely debunked the theory that if you stay away from people, it actually is better for your health. Actually, if you intermingle with human beings, it's actually a lot better for your health.
We're humans.
Right.
We're social animals.
And they're trying to separate. Everything's conquer and divide, man. Conquer and divide the family unit. Where basically I don't know, man. It's crazy times, bro. Crazy freaking times. But at the end of the day, I think humanity will win. I hope we win. My dream in it is to, if I can help as many people as I can. But the thing is, you have to help yourself first. You have to know who you are, and you have to be I think you have to be a loving being, and that's when you can help the most people. And you don't have to donate. You have to just be yourself, and I think that will help the most people. If you're just yourself, you don't have to be anyone else, because people will see you're courageous because you're just being the person that you are here to be, and that's it. So I think that's the biggest thing that you can do for humanity, is to be yourself and to be a loving human being, and that's it. So I'm sorry, I went on like a big tangent. I was hopping on so many different things, but I feel, I don't know. I've never been on like a podcast or like an interview. This is like a lot of pent up shit of like 6 years where people can hear me. I've talked to a lot of close family members and friends about it, but if I can have a platform to express myself and to help open maybe a path for another human being to live their true life, then that does me, that I'm very happy to do that. So yeah.
Hey, listen, that alone is the mission statement and the reason I even set myself down this path and this journey and this project to begin with. What's crazy, Danilo, wrapping up, I really wanted to pick your brain on what it's kind of like living through Corona in Serbia, but that is a quagmire that is a huge conversation. We kind of brushed upon different aspects of it, but I would love to get you on another time down the line to kind of talk about what it's like in Serbia versus America. And it is very clear right now we are in a war against an invisible enemy. And no, we're not talking about some Chinese virus, or we are very legitimately talking about another war, whether that's against a group of elitists that we can't see, or there's this spiritual element that is not present, or is omnipresent, but we can't always perceive it. So I agree with you. This civil war, this new war is upon us. I do think humanity wins. Again, like I said, I'm a determinist. I think at the end of that, we don't know where this story ends, but it's a story that's told either all at once, at the same time. We could go, dude, I could go on forever in every corner of this, right? Time is subjective. Who knows the realities and parameters of time? But I think this story is being told because it does end up there. Why do we make every movie end the same way, right? Find me a movie that ends in disaster, and I'll find you a movie that hasn't ended yet. So at the end of the day, I agree with you. I appreciate you taking your time. It's crazy. I'm about to just start my evening on a Friday, and you are winding down at almost 11 o'clock, 12 o'clock at night. And I appreciate you giving us your time, your energy, your thoughts, your passion, your spirit. And dude, just know we are all going to be here cheering you on as you reach your goal on this incredible journey. And we love being on it with you. So thank you for coming on the podcast and talking with us.
Thanks, man. I appreciate the platform. I'm sorry. I mean, I could talk about different things for hours, and I look forward to, if you let me, to get back on the pod. I'm not sure. I know. I think you're going to ask me one question, and I actually jumped ship, and I was like, and you're going to talk to me about Lord of the Rings, but I think that might be better for another podcast or something. But
I'm letting you know right now, that is not something I will forget. Lord of the Rings will be brought up the next time I have you on here. We are going to fish. Listen, only because there's this girlfriend of mine. She's huge on the Lord of the Rings, and I'm not as big into it. But when I'm with her, she always exposes me to it, and it is a great story. One that I never really watched growing up as much as I wish I did. But it is. Yeah. Incredibly entertaining. So I think what I'm saying is I haven't watched it in its entirety, but boy, have I watched it a lot. Of course, I've watched all the Hobbits, and if there's even an inkling of truth, but again, even if the story, even if there's not elves hiding out in Siberia, there are truths to the human existence in all stories. So I'm going to have fun wrestling the topic with you anyway, so don't think this is going away. I am for sure wanting to learn about elves in where was this located? Where is the Lord of the Rings located?
I don't even know, man. They got all these Middle Earth or whatever.
That's it, Middle Earth. I'm gonna do some research of my own too, then, and I'm gonna come to the table with some cards on the Lord of the Rings. But also, dude, I could go on forever. Low key, do I think Rome is hiding under the ice in Greenland? Kinda, but I'm not gonna say that out loud. You know, like I'm here to talk all day about those things. Rome never fell, and Lady Gaga is a witch. Listen, I cannot wait for my first Super Bowl, and I am going to, the halftime's going to come. It's going to be some puppet putts for the elitist who's going to do some show, and I'm going to get up, and I'm going to go to a whole nother room where I can't even hear it, and I'm just going to do, like you said, I'm going to do yoga. I'm just going to throw on a yoga. Because, dude, I listen to a conspiracy podcast. Do I think it's legitimate? Who knows? But I'm going to live by it. This guy who's huge into spirits and witchcraft said that the halftime show is the biggest spell that they do annually on the people because it's the most
magic
they have at one time. And if you watch the last 5 with Lady Gaga to Shakira, there is some fishy stuff going on. And I just, I'm excited for my first Super Bowl to excuse myself for some witchcraft. And I can't wait to see what happens. But I'm with you, dude. I live and breathe all this stuff because I'm willing to play with it. Am I going to live my life as if there's elves? No. I'm actually going to make fun of the Canadians that want their prefix to be elf. We make fun of that joke all the time. There's fox, pixie, and elf. Legal terms in Canada. If I don't call you a fox or an elf or a pixie, you can get me thrown in jail in Canada. That's how delusional they are. So elves are real only in Canada. They speak French and they tuck their wee-wee between their legs. So I'm all about talking about these things, man. I'm all for it.
Yeah.
But thank you, Danilo. I look forward to I seriously hope to get you on here again. If you're willing to stay up late and play with us Americans a bit, I'm all for it. So thank you.
Of course. All right, man.
Thank you for testing your English with us. But we'll catch you next time.
Problem.
And real quick, Danilo, guys, as we wrap up, go check out the Nero Gym. It's our new social media alternative on the Rethink Tank podcast. You can create your own profile. It's like a Reddit where it's just an open forum where we can talk about anything, dump your pictures and your media and your content, and it won't be a manipulated algorithm like Facebook. So come have fun with us and like us on Facebook, follow us on Twitter, find us on Instagram, and we'll catch you next time, guys. Peace. Thank you, Danilo.
No problem, bro.
I know that was long-winded. But dude,
no, listen. I could have talked another. Listen, I want to talk to you about Lord of the Rings right now because it's like killing me, bro. I know you're like, yo, we're gonna wait for another podcast. Like that's good because you're baiting some people in because I got some like fucking like I haven't cut my hair in 2.5 years. Like I don't know if hair has strength, right? Like if you look at if you go to the army, what do they do? Cut your hair. Why do they cut your hair? Because you lose balance. You lose your intuition. What are the Native Americans? They all have long hair. You look at the Viking. Everyone had long. If you look at the elves in Lord of the Rings, everyone has long hair. Long hair is your identity. The ends of your long hair, if you look at yogi masters, they're antennas for the cosmic forces, your connection with God, for your intuition. That's why women always have better intuition than men because they have longer hair.
Ooh, and like that, I gotta leave you hanging. But get excited, because Danilo and I go deep for a whole nother episode. So sit back, next week, part 2 comes out, another episode with Danilo Radjen. This time, we really go down the rabbit hole.
Oh, Dinah, it's just a rabbit with a waistcoat and a watch.
Oh, my goodness, biscuits. I'm late.
Now, this is curious. What could a rabbit possibly be late for? Please, sir!
I'm late for a very important date. No time to say hello, goodbye. I'm late.
It must be awfully important, like a party or something. Mr. Rabbit, wait!
No. I'm overdue. I'm really in a stew. No time to say goodbye. Hello, I'm late.
My, what a peculiar place to have a party. You know, Dinah, we really shouldn't